Once the meeting concluded, goodness me, 88 missed calls were prominently displayed before my eyes. My mother-in-law has this remarkable knack for making a string of continuous calls. If I don't answer, she'll keep bombarding me until I'm driven to the verge of breakdown. A wave of annoyance welled up within me. Yet I suppressed my irritation and called her back. Well, as expected, the person at the other end of the line hung up directly within 3 seconds. It's my mother-in-law's long-established routine. When I redial for the first time, she's ready to hang up, and it takes repeated invitations and pleadings for her to finally answer the call, as if we're engaged in a psychological battle. Today, I simply couldn't be bothered to play along with her. If she doesn't want to answer, so be it. I reckon it's nothing too serious anyway, and I have a multitude of matters awaiting my attention. There was still another meeting to attend. Just after I finished my work and picked up my mobile phone, a message from my husband popped up. He said, "Mom mentioned that she made numerous calls to you but you didn't answer, and she's really worried. Give her a call back when you're free." What on earth could she be worried about while I'm at work? I replied, barely containing my anger. I was in a meeting. I called her back, but she didn't pick up. What on earth does she want from me? My husband replied from the other end, "I'm busy." He didn't say, "Why don't you ask when you call her back?" At that moment, my anger flared up instantly. Ask your mother. At 8 o'clock in the evening, I dragged myself home, my body aching all over. Being 2 months pregnant, I could distinctly feel that my physical strength wasn't what it used to be. Fortunately, tomorrow is the weekend, which gives me a chance to catch my breath. As soon as I stepped through the door, I sensed an odd atmosphere. My mother-in-law stood in front of the sofa, fidgeting with the corner of her clothes, looking rather ill at ease. My husband, on the other hand, was slouching on the sofa with an impatient expression. The moment I entered, my mother-in-law wiped away her tears and turned towards the kitchen. My husband scurried over like a devoted lackey to fetch my slippers. "Darling, you're home. Why are you so late? Your supervisor is truly inconsiderate. How could they make a pregnant woman work overtime? Maybe we should just resign from our jobs." I didn't engage with his comment. Instead, I tilted my head towards the kitchen and, with a tinge of reproach in my voice, inquired, "What's the matter?" He replied that the gas stove had broken down. Mom was beside herself with anxiety. "She tried calling you, but you didn't answer. That's why there's no dinner tonight." Ever since my mother-in-law had been living with us for half a month, the kitchen appliances had been replaced time and again. There had been 3 rice cookers, 4 dishwashers, and 5 microwaves. Such a rapid rate of replacement made me wonder if she was doing it deliberately. During that period, the delivery guy even suspected that there was a glitch in the system of some e-commerce platform. With excitement gleaming in his eyes, he eagerly quizzed me about how I had managed to snag such substantial bargains. I heaved a sigh and pulled out my mobile phone. "Let me check what kind of takeout is available." Hardly had the words left my mouth when my mother-in-law dashed out of the kitchen in an instant. She waved her hands at me vigorously, exclaiming, No, takeout usually contains a large amount of cream, and is seriously unhygienic. You're pregnant now, so you must be cautious about your diet." My husband nodded in agreement, saying, Yes. You really need to be extra careful at this moment." I could only nod and ask, "Well, if we don't order takeout, what am I going to eat tonight?" My mother-in-law tugged at the corner of her clothes and stammered, "I've cooked some plain rice porridge in the rice cooker. You'll have to make do with it for tonight. It's all my fault. My mind isn't sharp enough. I just can't figure out these high-tech gadgets," she said, and by the end of her words, my mother-in-law was on the verge of tears. Seeing the situation, my husband grew anxious and quickly tried to soothe her. However, his efforts to console her were in vain. Instead, my mother-in-law looked at my husband with an even more aggrieved expression. She also gave me a meaningful look with her eyes. My husband couldn't hold back any longer and said, "Honey, Mom is in such a state. She didn't mean any harm. Please don't take it to heart. Besides, you're also at fault. If you had answered the phone and instructed her on how to use it, everything would have been fine. What kind of absurd logic is this?" I gave my rumbling stomach a listen as it let out a couple of growls. Reluctantly, I nodded slowly. "I don't blame you, truly. I just think that takeout would still be a viable option for now." The smile that had just spread across my mother-in-law's face froze instantaneously. Without delay, I placed an order. The takeout was only for myself. As long as one is willing to splurge a bit, there is an abundance of healthy and hygienic takeout options available. Now that my dinner was sorted, I began to have it out with my husband. I didn't answer Mom's calls because I was in the middle of a meeting at that time. Later on, I called her back, but she hung up on her own accord. Moreover, didn't Mom call you as well? How can you hold me accountable if you didn't bother to ask? Upon hearing these words, my husband's eyes darted away evasively. Subsequently, I snatched his mobile phone from his grasp. One glance at it and I couldn't help but chuckle. My mother-in-law had managed to make 88 consecutive calls to me, yet not a single call had been directed to her beloved son. Wait a minute. If he didn't answer Mom's calls, how on earth did he know that she had called me? Su Yao told me. My husband mumbled softly. Su Yao is my husband's younger sister, my sister-in-law. I just didn't want to disrupt Xu Wen's work. He's so swamped with tasks. Besides, how could he possibly understand these mundane kitchen matters? This is the kind of work that falls within the realm of us women. My mother-in-law wore an expression of complete self-assurance. I cast a sidelong glance at my husband, fished out my mobile phone, and after a flurry of rapid operations, I said to my mother-in-law, "Mom, you were actually trying to call my number." My mother-in-law looked utterly perplexed, yet she complied. To our surprise, my husband's mobile phone rang. But I clearly dialed Ching Ching's number. How could this be? This is exactly as it should be. This is called call forwarding. From now on, any calls you make to me will be redirected to Xu Wen. I explained to my mother-in-law. What are you talking about? My mother-in-law wore an expression of utter disbelief. If one can't rely on their son when they want to reach him, then there's even less hope of relying on their daughter-in-law. It's such a simple truth. I nonchalantly tucked into my belated dinner, feigning ignorance of the faint sobs that emanated from the bedroom. My mother-in-law's hometown is in a different province. Ordinarily, it is my husband who keeps in touch with her. During the rare instances when we interacted, it was usually her admonishing me to take good care of my husband and the like. Hence, when my husband initially proposed bringing her over to take care of me during my pregnancy, I was inwardly reluctant. However, my husband insisted that eating takeout during pregnancy was detrimental to the fetus, and was adamant about having his mother come and stay with us. Since she had already arrived, I couldn't very well send her away. I intended to maintain a polite and cordial relationship with her. However, ever since my mother-in-law arrived, she had engaged in a series of rather peculiar behaviors. First, she visited several local markets, and exclaimed that the prices of vegetables were exorbitantly high. She then suggested that I resign from my job and accompany her back to the countryside to spend my pregnancy there, claiming that the meat and vegetables at home were fresh, organic, and free from pollution. The baby will surely be intelligent then, she said. I retorted. I earn several 100,000 yuan a year. There's no ingredient that I can't afford. Why should I pay heed to her suggestions? Subsequently, she cooked noodles for an entire week straight, oil-splashed hand-pulled noodles, spinach noodles, mincemeat noodles, and scissors-cut noodles. My husband wolfed them down, his forehead glistening with sweat. My mother-in-law, gazing at him tenderly, coaxed, "Slow down. There's still plenty in the pot. Ching Ching, you should eat some too." But my southern palate simply couldn't tolerate having noodles for every meal. So I wordlessly took out my mobile phone and placed an order for takeout. Upon seeing this, my mother-in-law surreptitiously wiped away her tears. It's rather comical to think that before she arrived, my husband and I could take turns cooking, ensuring that we had at least a proper meal. But ever since she came, I found myself having to order takeout more frequently. My husband, being rather slow on the uptake, after much deliberation, suggested to my mother-in-law that we have rice and stir-fried dishes for a change. My mother-in-law's eyes welled up with tears, and she repeatedly apologized to me. Subsequently, the kitchen appliances seemed to bear the brunt. I just couldn't fathom why, once my mother-in-law changed her living environment, she became unable to operate these electrical appliances. After all, these gadgets were not absent in her hometown. However, out of respect for her, whenever an appliance broke down, I promptly purchased a new one to replace it. After all, matters that could be resolved with money were not real issues. After several such occurrences, my mother-in-law would cower like a mouse at the sight of me. For instance, when she was bustling about in the kitchen and I entered to get a glass of water, she would be as startled as a frightened fawn, stuttering and babbling a flurry of explanations. My husband also furtively whispered to me that I seemed a bit too tough and cold. He advised, "Chat with Mom more after work. Once you get to know each other better, she won't be so afraid. You can also send her messages during work hours. Besides, you're pregnant. What's wrong with taking a little break?" I was truly at a loss for words. Over a month passed, and the atmosphere at home became oppressively stifling. To be more precise, I was the one who felt oppressed, while the mother-son duo seemed rather content. As time wore on, I grew increasingly vexed, and began to contemplate finding an excuse to send my mother-in-law back home. "Mom, wake up. Ching Ching, come quickly." My husband's panicked voice, tinged with sobs, echoed from the secondary bedroom. I put down my chopsticks, annoyed that even my meal couldn't be peaceful. I rushed to the secondary bedroom, and was stunned to see my mother-in-law lying on the bed with her eyes tightly shut, moaning softly. Who are you?" My husband nervously clutched her hand. "Mom, it's me, Xu Wen." Seeing me standing there in a daze, he shouted at me. "Quick, find the medicine. It's in the drawer, hurry." I quickly opened the drawer, retrieved the medicine, poured water, and fed it to her. After a flurry of activity, my mother-in-law fell into a peaceful slumber. At 12 o'clock at night, I finally lay down on the bed, feeling somewhat relieved. My husband crept into the room, looking hesitant, as if he wanted to say something but held back, and then seemed on the verge of speaking again. I ignored him. He gently nudged me with his hand. Honey, why don't you resign? I sat up abruptly. What on earth are you saying? I didn't catch that. My husband placed a cushion behind my back and gently pinched me. You're pregnant. Commuting to and from work every day must be exhausting. I 心疼 you. Also. He hesitated for a moment before finally blurting out. The sudden episode of mom not recognizing people. I looked it up, and it seems like the initial symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. People with this condition really can't be left alone. You might as well resign from your job and take care of each other at home with mom. You can also have a good rest, and mom will have someone to look after her. This way, I can work with peace of mind. Don't worry about money. I can work more overtime and earn more. After all, it's all for our little family. I stared at him. He looked serious, not like he was joking. I still couldn't quite believe it and reached out to touch his forehead. You don't have a fever. Why are you spouting such nonsense? He grabbed my hand. I'm serious, honey. Resign from your job. I'll support you. I stared at him wide-eyed, waiting for him to continue. I gently shook my head and said flatly, oh no way. He suddenly became anxious and raised his voice a few notches. Other pregnant women can't wait to go home and rest. Why are you being so stubborn? After the baby is born, you'll have to stay at home for a while anyway. You might as well resign earlier and have an easier time. Why don't you understand? Besides, you know mom's situation. Can't you share some of the burden for me? I pushed him away from the bedside. He lost his balance, half of his body hanging in the air, and plopped down on the floor. I picked up a pillow and threw it at him. Still not satisfied, I kicked him a couple of times and chased him out of the room. Xu Wen, you should take mom to the hospital for a checkup first. Stop pestering me about this all the time. Other pregnant women are terrified of being fired, but you're constantly trying to persuade me to resign. I think there's something wrong with you. My husband Xu Wen and I journeyed from campus to the workplace. After graduation, we were fortunate enough to join the same company. We were young, capable, and hardworking, with high EQ and IQ. In just a few years, both of us had become department managers, earning a substantial annual salary. People outside would jokingly address us as manager. The year before last, we jointly purchased our current house. If everything went smoothly, I would be promoted one more level during the year-end performance review, with a raise in salary. Just thinking about it made me feel elated. I was even considering buying another house in the same community and bringing both sets of our parents to live with us. But who could have imagined that, at this crucial juncture, I unexpectedly became pregnant. Although this would have some impact on me this year, to be honest, I never expected Xu Wen to persuade me to quit my job. I had finally established a firm foothold in this company. How could I just leave? Look around. Which pregnant woman doesn't work until the due date before taking leave? Besides, I exercise regularly and am in excellent health. All the indicators in my prenatal checkups are normal. There's no need for me to stay at home to nurture the fetus. Just because my mother-in-law might have suspected Alzheimer's disease, and nothing has been clearly diagnosed yet, Xu Wen is already so frightened. Where did this guy find such an expert? I took a deep breath and gulped down a glass of water to calm myself. Forget it. I'll wait until dawn to have a good talk with him. If it really doesn't work, I'll send my mother-in-law back to her hometown and hire a nanny to take care of her. If she doesn't cause trouble here, I can work with peace of mind. As it stands now, it seems like I might have to resign to take care of her. Isn't that putting the cart before the horse? The next morning, the sound of chopping woke me up. Rubbing my sleepy eyes, I strolled to the kitchen and sure enough saw my mother-in-law busily at work. I glanced at the time. It was exactly 7 o'clock. I couldn't help but say, Mom, it's still early. The neighbors might have complaints. On weekends, everyone wants to sleep in a bit. My mother-in-law continued to chop without even looking up. It's not early at all. In our place, we get up at 6 o'clock. There's no such thing as sleeping in. I wanted to make you all a meal of dumplings. Let me tell you, my dumplings are superb. I found it both funny and exasperating. I said the sound was too loud, and she talked about the deliciousness of the dumplings. Our communication never seemed to be on the same wavelength. I went to look for Xu Wen but couldn't find him after searching several places. Mom, do you know where Xu Wen went? I'm not sure. He's not in your room. Strange. Where could he have gone so early in the morning? We were supposed to take Mom to the doctor. I was filled with doubt. After washing up, I declined my mother-in-law's loving breakfast and fried an egg myself. She had gotten up at 6 o'clock to knead the dough and chop the stuffing. The problem was that it was leek and pork stuffing. I had told her several times that I don't eat leeks. My mother-in-law was flustered, looking like a child who had made a mistake, with red-rimmed eyes. I didn't do it on purpose. I just forgot. I'm getting old, and my memory isn't good. Everyone in our family loves leek and pork dumplings. Xu Wen's sister and his dad can each eat 3 big bowls every time. Try them. Maybe you'll like them once you taste them. I let out a sigh. Alas, looking at this situation, from now until the baby is born, we'll have to live together for a whole year. If she always wears that wronged expression when she works, I'm afraid I won't be able to stay in this house for long. I silently encouraged myself, regarding my mother-in-law as a difficult client in a project team. I silently recited in my heart that communication is the key. I pulled her to sit on the sofa together, held her rough hands that had become so from hard work, and sincerely sighed. Mom, I have just one small request regarding my diet. I don't eat leeks. I can eat noodles but not all the time. Otherwise I'm not picky. You've raised Xu Wen, so you must be a capable person. You won't cry at the slightest provocation like some people. So, what are you really worried about? Or is there something I, as a daughter-in-law, have done wrong? She gave me a sidelong glance and quickly averted her eyes. I just feel sorry for Xu Wen. He's busy outside every day and doesn't even get a hot meal when he comes home. If I hadn't come, I wouldn't have known. He'd still have to mop the floor, wash the clothes, and clean the house by himself. Once she started talking, her voice got louder and louder. Ching, you should also feel sorry for him. How can a wife let her husband live such a hard life? I'm just wondering, how can sharing some household chores be considered hard? But seeing how serious my mother-in-law looked, I still asked, Mom, what do you think I should do? My mother-in-law looked pleased, as if she was looking at a teachable pupil, and patted the back of my hand. You're pregnant now. You might as well resign and go home. Besides, the salary you earn isn't much. We women should put our families first. Only then can our men work outside with peace of mind. I withdrew my hand and rubbed my temple. What on earth was I doing? I was trying to communicate, but now it seemed that the gulf between us was getting deeper. Just then the door opened, and a series of clear sounds rang out, followed by Xu Wen's voice. Guess who's here? Then his tone suddenly changed to one of Drew one. Mom, what's wrong with you? Why are your eyes so red? Sister-in-law, what did you say to Mom? Zhao Qingqing, Xu Wen's sister, was currently unemployed. At this moment, she was glaring at me angrily. I looked at her with a half-smile, then at Xu Wen, who was changing his shoes at the door. This guy was dawdling and didn't turn around to meet my gaze for a long time. He was trying to be a peacemaker again. I gently tapped the coffee table with the remote control, and looked at my mother-in-law. Mom, tell me what I just said to you. My mother-in-law, who had been so impassioned and bossy just now seemed like a mute gourd, her face flushed, stammering and unable to say a word. That wronged look in her eyes seemed to return again. Here we go again. Why are mothers-in-law so good at playing the victim and acting weak? It's as if there's some untaught skill. I thought to myself, it's really one headache after another every day. I simply picked up my phone and opened the surveillance video. Since my mother-in-law had been breaking down the kitchen appliances from time to time, for safety reasons, I had quietly installed surveillance cameras at home. I hadn't had the chance to tell them about this yet. I was so busy that I really didn't have the energy to beat around the bush with them. It was better to just show the surveillance video directly. As soon as the surveillance video finished playing, the room suddenly became so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Then various voices rang out. Honey, why didn't you tell me you were installing surveillance cameras? Qingqing, what are you up to at home? Are you trying to guard against me? Sister-in-law, what's the meaning of installing surveillance cameras? I interrupted them irritably. Can we focus on the key point first? The key point is what I just did to Mom. Now it should be clear, right? Yes, my mother-in-law nodded, shrinking her neck. My sister-in-law quickly forced a smile. Sister-in-law, I was just worried and got carried away. I'm straightforward. Don't take it to heart. Then I'll go to my room first. Brother, which room will I stay in from now on? I looked at my husband. He finally finished changing his shoes slowly. When he met my gaze, he gave a silly smile and walked over gently. She'll stay with us for a while to help take care of Mom. She'll go back when you take your leave. I waited for him to speak clearly and asked word by word. This is the solution you came up with? He scratched his head and ears, looking pleading. I haven't had a chance to tell you yet. Before he could finish, my mother-in-law got anxious first and raised her voice. Xu Wen, a man should act like a man. This house was bought by you. Why can't your sister live here? When I heard this, my eyebrows furrowed. What did she mean by he bought the house? We each paid half of the down payment, and neither of us paid less. The mortgage is also paid in turns. My name is on the property certificate. Xu Wen, what do you mean by you bought the house? My sister-in-law's eyes rolled when she heard this. She came up and grabbed my arm. Oh, sister-in-law. Although this house was bought after you got married and is legally your joint property, to be honest, wasn't the money still my brother's? That's what Mom means. Of course, the house also has your share. Don't misunderstand, Mom. I was almost amused by anger. I shook off her hand and pointed at Xu Wen's nose. Is this how you told them? He quickly came up and pushed me towards the bedroom. Let's go inside the room. I shook off his hand forcefully and directly asked, speak. He grinned, poured me a glass of water while trying to soothe me. Hey, calm down first and let's talk while sitting. I ignored the glass of water. Seeing this, he scratched his head and began to explain cautiously. I told my family that I bought the house, and I paid both the down payment and the mortgage. You know, in our Xu family, I'm the most successful one. I bought a house and a car in the city just a few years after graduating. If they knew that I actually got help from you, how embarrassing that would be. He then added in a rush, so I told a white lie. It's not a big deal, right? Not a big deal? My heart suddenly skipped a beat, as if I had grasped something crucial. I stared intently at him and asked, then did you tell my family about my income? How much is my monthly salary? Just as he was about to speak, I interrupted him. Think before you answer. They're right outside the door. It's not difficult for me to check the answers. Realizing he couldn't hide it anymore, he said guiltily, 3,000 yuan a month. Hearing this, I almost burst out laughing. Clearly, our incomes are about the same, and sometimes I even earn more than him. Yet, for the so-called face, he told his family that he has an annual salary of 1 million yuan, while I only earn 3,000 yuan a month. and he's the one bearing the burden of the house and the car, and I just work to kill time. No wonder his mother always says he's hard working and blames me for being inconsiderate. Presumably, they've all been fooled by his words. His guilty look and the expression that seemed to invite my ridicule were perhaps too obvious. Xu Wen flew into a rage out of humiliation and blurted out, "Anyway, you'll have to resign soon. Then you'll stay at home for a few years and go out to find a job again. Isn't it still going to be a 3,000 yuan a month salary? I just said it in advance." "What do you mean I'll resign?" I was stunned. The baby came suddenly, and indeed we hadn't made any plans. But no matter when we plan, I've never thought of resigning. Where did he get the confidence to think that I would definitely resign? Who would believe that I would give up an annual salary of hundreds of thousands to stay at home and take care of the child? Or does he not trust me and think that I'm inferior to him? I suddenly remembered that before, when I proposed hiring a nanny to help take care of the child in the future. Although he didn't object, he also didn't agree. Instead, he had been constantly hinting to me to resign from the very beginning. Thinking of this, I stared at him with sharp eyes and said word by word, "If I resign and have no income with your current salary, after paying off the mortgage and car loan and covering daily expenses, there won't be much left. In case of any accident, just the more than 30,000 yuan mortgage will be enough to give us a hard time. Have you seriously considered all these?" I raised my eyebrows and asked. He patted his chest full of confidence. "When I get promoted, doubling my salary is not a dream. It's one thing to be fed empty promises by the boss at the company, but this guy is still trying to deceive me at home. I'm not that easy to fool. When exactly is when? It's who knows how long from now." He smiled brightly. "This time for the position of director in the recruitment competition, I'm determined to win." I rolled my eyes at him. "Come on, you're just going to make up the numbers." In my heart, I knew clearly that I was one of the popular candidates for this competition. And there was also a strong rival, Yi Qian from the neighboring department. The two of us really didn't get along. Didn't this guy have any idea about this? He analyzed it in great detail. "You can't say that. The situation is changing rapidly. No one can say for sure until the last moment. You're pregnant now, so you definitely have to withdraw. With one less competitor, and Yi Qian having a feud with you, once you withdraw, she probably won't want to play either. With one more less, the other three are about on a par with me. If you give me those resources in your hands, I'm basically sure to win. Then I'll have a bright future, and all those trivial matters you're worried about won't happen." After saying that, he even made a victory gesture, with a strange glimmer in his eyes. I sat there motionless, thinking this guy was simply daydreaming. Seeing that I didn't respond, his face gradually darkened. "You don't think what I said is right?" "Of course I don't think it's right. Why should I automatically step aside just because I'm pregnant? Besides, if I don't participate in the competition, why should I hand over the resources I've painstakingly accumulated to others? Will I still need them in the future?" Most importantly, I took a deep breath, opened my eyes and stared at him seriously. "What makes you think that Yi Qian will withdraw just because I don't participate? This reason is too absurd. Maybe she's secretly happy in some corner. She said she's getting married soon and plans to be a full-time housewife after marriage, so she doesn't want to work so hard. She just doesn't want to lose to you. If you don't go, she naturally won't be interested in competing." As soon as I heard this, I flew into a rage, jumped out of bed in a few steps, picked up the big Chinese, English dictionary beside me, and threw it at him. "You arrogant fool," I shouted, kicking him and pushing him out of the door. "Get out." This idiot really made me extremely angry. He shamelessly patted the door and shouted, "Honey, open the door. There really aren't any extra rooms at home." I flung the door open. He still had a flattering smile on his face. Without saying a word, I threw his pillow and quilt at him all at once and added a kick. "Stay away from me. I'm annoyed just looking at you." With a bang, I closed the door behind me and locked it. I felt like a deflated balloon, slowly sliding down against the door and finally sitting on the floor. Just then, my mind suddenly became extremely clear, and many overlooked details rushed to my mind all at once. Xu Wen usually acts as if he loves me to death, but when it comes to work he's like a different person, sensitive and awkward, always trying to outdo me. I remember when we first started working during a colleague's dinner, everyone joked that his girlfriend was beautiful and could earn a lot of money, so he could save many years of hard work. As soon as he heard this, his face turned red with anxiety, and he quickly denied it, saying that my daily expenses were also high and I didn't help him much, and he was still the one bearing the burden of household expenses. Everyone laughed and no one took it seriously, but he brooded over it. From then on, every holiday, he would send me red envelopes and buy me gifts, and then take screenshots and post them on Moments with the caption, "A real man." But the red envelopes and gifts I sent him, he never posted, with the excuse that showing off affection easily invites envy, and he knows my goodness himself. Whenever I excitedly shared with him good news like getting an order, getting a raise, or being praised by the leader, he was always impatient, saying, "Women don't need to work too hard. Being a small-time employee and living a stable life is good enough." Now that I think about it, actually everything was foreshadowed long ago. As soon as I got pregnant, before the competitors even made a move, the person beside me was already calculating how to take over my hard-earned achievements, all under the guise of love. I gently stroked my belly and sighed. Because of this matter, the two of us had a cold war for several days. Later, he came to coax me humbly, admitting that he was wrong and promising never to mention my resignation again. Only then did we reconcile. I thought it was just his male chauvinism acting up and not a matter of principle. I don't know why, but this matter seemed to sting my mother-in-law. She started throwing things around the house and constantly nandal about how women should be. Not long ago, she accidentally broke the rice cooker again. This time, I didn't take the initiative to buy a new one. Then my mother-in-law took it upon herself to pack a bunch of my clothes and shoes, saying she wanted to send them to relatives in her hometown, muttering, "When you're pregnant, your figure will change, and you won't be able to wear these anymore. It would be a pity to throw them away. Let's not waste things." I thought to myself, I'm just pregnant, not at the end of the world. Why won't I be able to wear them? I quickly stopped her and locked the door, and the matter was finally settled. As for my sister-in-law, she was constantly pushing pregnancy care tips to me on her phone every day, and by the way, took over my skincare products, with the excuse that these things had a lot of chemical components and were bad for the fetus. "Hey, I'm doing you a favor by getting rid of them for you. Don't be too touched," she said with a proud look. I looked at her, the corners of my mouth curving into a smile, and directly threw the purchase records at her. "Pay up." The expression on her face was as colorful as a palette, extremely wonderful. I knew clearly whether skincare products could be used during pregnancy, and what kind could be used. After all, our company specializes in this field of research and development. My IQ didn't drop just because I'm pregnant. Were they really trying to take care of me, or just trying to take advantage of me? Due to the influence of hormones during pregnancy, my emotions were already unstable. The actions of my mother-in-law and sister-in-law almost drove me crazy. This negative emotion carried over to my work, and I, who am usually very engine, actually made a small mistake. Fortunately, my assistant was quick, witted and fixed it. I quickly sent him a big red envelope as a reward. Xu Wen comforted me. "It's just the adjustment period of a new marriage. You'll get used to it. If you feel tired, you might as well resign from your job." I waved my hand to interrupt him. He knew that my tiredness didn't come from work. I tried to discuss with him. How about sending my mother-in-law and sister-in-law away first? He directly refused, saying that his mother would have to help take care of the child in the future, and sending her away wasn't a long-term solution. It would be better to solve all the problems at once now, so as not to cause conflicts during the confinement period and avoid leaving grudges from the confinement period. He thought he was very clever and even smiled proudly, but with our conditions, there was no need for his mother to help take care of the child. I really wanted to have a good argument with him, but seeing him working hard to rub my legs, with a tired look on his face and happily discussing the baby's name, I softened my heart again. Forget it, I endured it. But how could this matter be so easy to endure? Little by little, the suppressed emotions were like a powder keg, ready to explode at the tiniest spark. This matter is quite funny. It was such a sudden small turn of events. Early one weekend morning, the sunlight lazily spilled onto the floor through the gaps in the curtains. I was thinking that I had to quickly find the gift prepared for that important client, and wrap it beautifully. Guess what? I started rummaging through boxes and cabinets, from the wardrobe to the bookshelf, from the drawers to the storage room, almost turning the whole house upside down, but I couldn't find a trace of that gift. I was really sweating profusely with anxiety, and my heart was in a turmoil, fearing that I would delay the matter. Well, to be honest, this client just loves a good cup of tea. My best friend specially got me some white tea from the origin, which costs several thousand yuan per jean. The key is that it's not necessarily available even if you have money. Settling this client would smooth the way for my promotion, a sure thing. But this client's schedule is full, and we've made several appointments but still haven't been able to meet. Finally, today he could squeeze out some time. I was just about to visit him when, right before I went out, I found that the tea I had put away was missing. I slapped my thigh and directly rushed into the bedroom. I saw my mother-in-law and sister-in-law watching TV, laughing from ear to ear. "Mom, have you seen the tea in my drawer?" Only then did my mother-in-law look up and say with a smile, "Tea? Oh that. I boiled it for tea eggs this morning." "What?" My voice shot up an octave. "You should have told me before using it." My mother-in-law couldn't squeeze out a complete sentence for a long time. My sister-in-law was unhappy. She threw her phone on the bed with a slap and said, "Sister-in-law, don't go too far. Is a box of tea really that important? It was prepared for a client. What a big deal." My sister-in-law didn't take it seriously. My mother-in-law quickly picked up the conversation. "I only used a little. The rest is in the kitchen. I'll go get it for you." After saying that, she was about to wipe her tears again. I was annoyed by her habit of crying, making a scene, and threatening to commit suicide. I waved my hand to stop her. "Forget it. It's too late. There are only 3 hours left until the meeting with the client. It's obviously too late to look for the tea again. I have to think of another gift." My mind was racing. After considering several alternative plans, I had an idea. Just as I was about to call my assistant to arrange the purchase, my phone was snatched away by my sister-in-law. "Mom didn't do it on purpose. What's your attitude?" My sister-in-law glared at me. I looked at her coldly. "Give me my phone." She raised her chin and hid the phone behind her back. "Apologize to my mom first." I turned my head and caught a glimpse of my mother-in-law. A flash of pride passed through her eyes. Oh, the relationship between a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law can be quite interesting sometimes. Being gentle for too long really makes them think I'm easy to bully. There's no way I'm going to apologize. This matter is definitely not something I should bow my head and admit fault for. Without saying a word to my sister-in-law, I rushed forward in 3 steps and subdued her in one go. I forcefully pried the phone out of her tightly, clenched little fist. Then I gave her a gentle push. and she staggered and sat down on the bed. I quickly continued to call my assistant. Suddenly, I felt a sharp blow to my back, and my whole body lurched forward. My stomach hit the corner of the table squarely, and my phone flew out. With a crack, the screen shattered, looking like a spider's web. My mother-in-law put her hands on her hips, her voice so sharp that it could pierce the roof. How can you bully Yao Yao? Stars were spinning in front of my eyes, my stomach was yin yin zotong, and my stomach was churning violently. I couldn't help but let out a cry. I retched, staring at her in disbelief. A flicker of panic flashed across her eyes, but she quickly straightened her back. I didn't do it on purpose. You were bullying Yao Yao. We're even now. My sister-in-law stood up shakily beside her, opened her mouth, but couldn't utter a word. Suppressing the disgust in my heart, I crawled forward a couple of steps and picked up my phone. Fortunately, it could still be used. Manchang. They stood there like wooden stakes, frozen. I quickly dialed 120, and then immediately asked my assistant to call the client to apologize and explain the cancellation of today's appointment. After arranging all this, I had just let out a sigh of relief when my vision went black. The last thing I heard was my sister-in-law scream, and then I knew nothing. Before fainting, the only thought in my mind was that I couldn't endure it any longer. When I woke up, I heard the three of them, the family of three, arguing in hushed voices. Mom asked Ching Ching. She said it was okay to use it casually. How could I know that tea was so important to her? If I had known, my dear grandson. Fortunately, nothing serious happened. Otherwise, it would all be my fault. Mom, this is your fault. If you hadn't said you wanted to eat tea eggs, Mom wouldn't have thought of making them. I told her to make them. There are plenty of tea eggs in the breakfast shops outside. Why did she have to make them herself? Well, you didn't stop her either. Lying on the hospital bed, I squinted my eyes and listened to them shirking responsibility. The more I listened, the colder my heart became. He knew everything. Even worse, he had deliberately guided my mother-in-law to do all these things. What good would it do him if I stood up the client? I cleared my throat gently, opened my eyes slowly, and pretended to have just woken up. My mother-in-law rushed over first and asked in a low voice, Ching Ching, you're awake. What would you like to eat? Mom really didn't mean to push you. You have to forgive Mom. As she spoke, she raised her hand and slapped herself hard. The sound was clear and resounding. Xu Wen and my sister-in-law quickly stepped forward to stop her. The three of them stared at me intently, their eyes filled with anticipation. I was stunned for a moment, unable to say a word for a long time. Finally, I blurted out, I want to drink pork rib soup. My mother-in-law's eyes lit up instantly upon hearing this. She agreed repeatedly. Okay. I'll go home and make it for you right away. With that, she dragged my sister-in-law and left in a hurry. The ward suddenly became quiet, leaving just the two of us. I turned to look at Xu Wen. The fleeting guilt in his eyes didn't escape mine. This person usually pays great attention to his image. Presumably, he rushed here in a hurry. There was a small circle of sweat stains on his dark blue shirt. His eyes were a bit bloodshot at the corners, and his lips were slightly chapped. He looked at me with a worried expression. I knew he loved me, but this kind of love wasn't what I wanted. I said hoarsely, Where's my phone? I want to check something. His eyes darted around nervously. You just woke up. The doctor said you need to stay in bed and rest quietly. Don't worry, the baby wasn't hurt. As he spoke, he handed me a glass of water. Drink some water first. What do you want to see? I can read it to you. I shook my head stubbornly. I want to make a call. Ching Ching, listen to me. Your phone is broken. I'll take it to be repaired. He tried to persuade me. Then give me your phone. I'll use it for a while. I insisted. We just stood there, locked in a stalemate, neither of us willing to give in. He rubbed his hair irritably, about to say something, when the door of the ward was suddenly pushed open. My assistant walked in, holding a bouquet of flowers. A soft cough broke the awkward atmosphere. Xu Wen's face turned deathly pale instantly. After my assistant left, I was stunned for a long time. Only then did I realize that the client I was supposed to meet had been intercepted by Xu Wen. If it hadn't been for my assistant seeing him saying goodbye to the client, I would still be kept in the dark. The client I had been following for a year, almost successfully closed the deal with, was so easily snatched away by him. What's more, he had even submitted an application for unpaid leave on my behalf without my consent, with the excuse that the doctor's advice was to stay in bed and rest. Why? I murmured, sitting in the shadow of the corner, my face ashen, as if being weighed down by some heavy burden. In the oppressive atmosphere, he slowly raised his head, his voice filled with a sense of reluctance and helplessness. If you had signed this deal, your promotion would have been certain. But think about it, you're about to go on maternity leave. After the leave, this position might not be yours anymore. Then what's the point of your promotion? It's different for me. After I get promoted, my position will be more stable. Then I can take better care of you and the baby. I'm doing this for your own good. I've been worrying myself sick for this family. We're a family. We should work together and strive with all our might to get all the benefits. How could he be so brazen, presenting these words as if they were the truth? I stared at him with wide eyes, my voice as calm as a still lake, without a single ripple. Cut the high-sounding talk. You know exactly what's on your mind. Once a woman in the workplace gets pregnant, it's like being stuck in a sticky situation that's hard to shake off. I understand this truth, and I've also prepared plenty of countermeasures. I just never expected that the first one to turn against me would be you. You were supposed to be my strongest support, but in the end, you're holding me back under the guise of love. I bet Yi Qian is probably laughing her head off at home right now. Let her laugh. Laugh herself to death. Tears welled up in my eyes all of a sudden, flowing freely like a broken dam, and I couldn't stop them. I cried bitterly. Xu Wen fumbled around in a panic, trying to get tissues. Stop crying. The doctor said you need to keep a happy mood. I threw 2 cold words at him. Get lost. He was still in a daze, his hand still unconsciously pulling out tissues. I raised my voice, sharp as a blade. Stay away. When I was discharged from the hospital and got home, my mother was actually waiting there. She hugged me tightly, her eyes filled with ing tears. She kept scolding me. Why didn't you tell me such a big thing as being pregnant? It was only 2 months. I had planned to tell her in the 3rd month. I comforted her. She wiped her tears and plunged into the kitchen to make soup for me. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law had already left. I think it's more reliable for your mother to take care of you, Xu Wen said sheepishly. I didn't bother to pay attention to him. Why should I? After that quarrel, I hadn't spoken a word to him. He didn't seem to care either, babbling to himself every day. But this situation didn't last long. He came home later and later from work. After all, it was the crucial moment for his promotion. Who wouldn't go all out? Unlike me, who could only stay at home and take care of the fetus in peace. I let out a long, sad sigh. On the day of the recruitment competition for the position, Xu Wen went out full of energy. I stared fixedly at his back. My mother looked at me, the words on the tip of her tongue, but then swallowed them back. Daughter, come to the kitchen and help me make soup. Looking at her busy figure, I had made up my mind. One sunny morning, I took my mother's hand and had a heart-to-heart talk with her. I told her about my work, my achievements, the things with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, and all the messy things Xu Wen had done during this period. He loved me, that was true, but he insisted that I always live in his shadow. Mom, this time I really want a divorce. She didn't say a word. Just like when she used to lull me to sleep when I was a child. She gently patted my back. After a long time her gentle voice came. My dear, that's not love at all. Love is mutual understanding and respect. It's being able to do what you want without being restricted. Mom supports you. You have to learn to love yourself first. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably, flowing down my cheeks and into my mouth, tasting salty with a hint of sweetness. 7 days later, Xu Wen finally found out that I had had an operation. He rushed in frantically. I was sipping red date chicken soup in small mouthfuls. The red dates were sweet and the chicken was tender and soft, the most delicious taste my mother was good at. He stared at my stomach with wide eyes, his voice tinged with sobs. How could you? How dare you? He hugged my legs, resting his head on my knees and sobbed. I pushed him away in disgust and wiped the tears on my legs. I said calmly, divorce. No. Stop talking. I'm begging you. He held his head in his hands, looking extremely tonku. I took out a divorce agreement from my bag and threw it on the coffee table, motioning for him to take a look. Under my calm gaze, he ran out in a sorry state. The house was only so small. Where could he hide? 3 hours later, I moved a small stool and sat in front of the toilet door. I knocked on the door 3 times. Dong dong dong. A muffled grunt came from inside. This was our rule. To prevent accidents from happening if someone stayed in the toilet for too long, when the other person knocked 3 times, the person inside had to respond. If there was no response, the person outside had to find a way to open the door and go in. I looked down at my toes, my tone flat. Remember that time we worked on a plan together and worked overtime for half a month? The plan was very successful. You said we were comrades in arms. I really liked that term. Working hard together, striving together. I thought we could always be comrades in arms. I wanted to charge forward with you. I wanted to be a part of your journey. What's wrong with that? I could have soared, but you told me no. Was getting pregnant at that exact time really a coincidence? Your mother doesn't have Alzheimer's disease at all, does she? I paused. He didn't say a word. After a long while I said, let's get a divorce. His throat tightened and he said hoarsely, no, I don't agree. I took a deep breath of cold air and stared back at him coldly. You have to agree. There's no room for negotiation. The client you snatched, I can still find a way to make him change his mind. The letter of intent isn't a formal contract. You know very well that he signed with you only because I'm your wife. Honestly, it's me helping you, not you on your own. Suddenly, the door was pushed open with a bang. His face was as white as paper. He kept shaking his head. Don't slander me. I rolled my eyes at him. Tomorrow at 9 o'clock, meet me at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. I'll be waiting for you. If you don't come, I'll go and sign myself. And that client, you can see if I'm bluffing you. The next day, at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Xu Wen showed up looking dispirited. He was on time though. I snorted coldly in my heart. The last bit of reluctance I had disappeared in an instant. After getting the divorce certificate, he stammered and asked if he could give me a hug. I refused him directly. We're divorced. What's the point of hugging? Ding. My phone rang. We both took out our phones to check at the same time. He took one look and his face turned deathly pale, his eyes filled with astonishment. I smiled at him, a standard flight attendant, like smile. Manager Sue, didn't your leader tell you that unpaid leave requires the confirmation of the person himself? Oh, and there's another special case. You can do the job, related report online. With that, I raised my chin, looking as proud as a peacock, and walked away with big steps. The text message read, to all employees of the company, Comrade Zhao Qingqing has been diligent and serious in her work since joining the company. After research and decision by the company, she is promoted to director. We look forward to your continued outstanding achievements. Yes, I got promoted. Although Xu Wen poached one of my clients, there were more than just that one fish in my client pool. After discovering the fly-away order, I immediately asked my assistant to contact other alternative clients. Although I was resting at home, I hadn't been idle. I quickly negotiated several big deals. I always have a plan B and plan C. The unpaid leave application that Xu Wen submitted for me was held back by my leader. He hoped that I would make the decision myself. After all, women can better understand women. After the divorce, Xu Wen came to me, begging for a reconciliation, but I didn't agree. He started sending me flowers, meals, and gifts in various ways. My assistant, while wiping tears and munching on snacks, sobbed, "This is really my cup of tea. I'm really into this. I'm totally shipping it." Xu Wen looked very proud, obviously enjoying his devoted husband persona. He squinted his eyes, his lips tightly pursed, staring straight at me. "How about we start over?" I directly refuted him. After several such attempts, he was at his wit's end. He grumbled, "Ching, enough is enough." I told him, "The sense of security you gave me was so little. If I were to stay at home full time, my happiness for the rest of my life would all depend on your conscience. You threatened and complained just because I refused to give up my job. Doesn't this just prove that your conscience is really bad?" When he heard this, he wilted. "I won't do it again in the future. Why don't you believe me?" I was very calm. "Is it that you won't do it again, or are you just holding back for now?" Manager Xu. He finally couldn't hold it in anymore. From then on, he never came to see me again. After a while, with a wave of my hand, I directly transferred him to another city. Why not make use of the privilege of my promotion? I heard that he wasn't doing well there, remaining stagnant. What's more, a woman even overtook him. Judging by this situation, it's estimated that we won't have a chance to see each other in this lifetime. As for me, my new life has just begun. The end.